Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I rise today in support of H.R. 542, the Elizabeth Dole Home and Community-Based Services for Veterans and Caregivers Act of 2023, or the Elizabeth Dole Home Care Act of 2023, as amended. The bill is a pivotal piece of legislation aimed at transforming the landscape of long-term care for our nation's veterans. And I commend Representative Brownlee for her bipartisan work with me on it. Veterans, like all Americans, are living longer. This requires the Veterans Administration to adapt to this evolving veteran population to ensure that eligible veterans entering their later years have access to long-term care that meets their needs. As of fiscal year 2022, approximately 3.1 million veterans, roughly half of VA's active patient population, were 65 years or older. These veterans, often older, sicker, and poorer than the general population, and often residing in rural areas, demand a tailored approach to health care. Veterans want to remain at home for care, avoiding admission to long-term care facilities. This preference is not only understandable, but becomes imperative given the current challenges with long-term care facilities and limited admissions nationwide. By expanding VA's non-institutional long-term care services through Rep. Brownlee's and my bill, we would allow aging and disabled veterans the option of staying in their homes, and institutional care can be reserved for veterans who truly need intensive, round-the-clock care and services. While many states have shifted investments from institutional to home and community-based care, VA has not kept pace. The lack of a statutory mandate has led to inconsistent availability of home and community-based services, leaving many veterans underserved simply based on where they live. That's unacceptable. Veterans and veteran service organizations have consistently urged VA to focus on expanding access to home and community-based services to allow veterans to age comfortably and safely in place. The VA committee answered these demands head-on, and we held numerous hearings on the issue focused on equitable long-term care access. Our bill would also rightfully eliminate the annual cap on non-institutional care to include greater flexibility in meeting the needs of veterans living with ALS or spinal cord injuries, for example. Under current law, these veterans are often forced into institutional care simply because funding cannot be provided for home care. This bill would ensure availability of all programs such as veteran-directed care, homemaker home health aid, home-based primary care, and purchased skill home care at all VA medical centers. In addition to expanding access, the Dole Act urges VA to take a more active role in helping veterans and their caregivers navigate the multiple options that may be available to them as they consider long-term care. It's no secret that the nation is facing a shortage of qualified professionals capable of taking on the tasks required by home or community-based care. Rep. Brownlee's and my bill would create a pilot program to bring in more professionals to serve veterans through homemaker and home health services. Finally, I want to emphasize that we are committed to fiscal responsibility and have identified an offset to fully fund these programs that will ultimately address the pressing needs of America's aging veteran population. The Elizabeth Dole Home Health Care Act of 2023 is a pledge to ensure veterans receive the care they deserve, preserving their dignity and independence, whether they are catastrophically disabled or in the twilight of their lives. I would like to sincerely thank Representative Brownlee for her dedication to this issue and her bipartisan work with me on this legislation. I would also like to thank the 46 organizations, including all of the major veteran service organizations, the Elizabeth Dole Foundation, and many other groups dedicated to caring for and serving veterans. Mr. Speaker, I urge unanimous consent that this letter be entered into the record.
Without objection.
And while we are considering this bill today, I want to remind my colleagues that this legislation is also a part of a comprehensive veterans package being negotiated between the House and Senate Veterans Affairs Committees. I look forward to working with my colleagues in the days ahead to collectively advance not only this legislation, but many other proposals that support the interests and the well-being of all veterans. Finally, I want to thank the numerous Veteran Service Organization partners who have worked with us. I urge all my colleagues to support H.R. 542 as amended. With that, Mr. Speaker, I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman from Michigan reserves.